It sounds like water, just like the ocean, like floating. That's how my guitar sounds like and feels like to me. It's nice to not have to talk to describe how you're feeling. You know what I mean? It's nice to learn about yourself by like sitting down, picking up a guitar and just playing. It's the whole entire journey of self-exploration. Because it'd be so easy to just throw a beat on and rap and call it an album and continue. I have to expose some part of myself that I'm uncomfortable with every album. I've seen people who really play, like who can really, really play phenomenally, and who can speak better through their instrument than they can in conversation. And like having a conversation with someone, talking about something, and then after hearing them play, and you can hear what you just talked about in the music, it's unreal.
This podcast is coming to you from the Rehoboth Social Podcast Network. You can check it out on the Podcasts app, Spotify, Audio Boom, YouTube, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. Go to the Instagram. It's Catch My Riff Podcast. It's also on YouTube under Catch My Riff Podcast. If what you're hearing resonates with you, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Don't leave any hateful comments because that's pointless. Not worth it. I mean, you can, but there's no point. We shouldn't be speaking hateful things to each other. You're tuning into the first ever episode, the birth of an idea I had a year ago, and here we are. What you just heard was an excerpt from Mac Miller's Artist Spotlight from Fender Guitars. Something about that clip really, really resonates with me. It's inspiring, but I think he got a point across very well. And I think his understanding and depth of the transcendent nature of music is relevant in the words that he's speaking. The point of me trying to do this podcast was to shed light on artist creativity, give artists a platform to speak about their journey, their experience with life. Why are they doing what they do? Why are they writing about what they write about? And I think in learning and hearing those types of conversations and listening to that information, it can be very healing and, like I was saying before, transcendent. And if this podcast can inspire people to look for something hopeful and joyous and hear stories of resilience and good times and good things and also the bad things, and find solace and find connection to that, then all I could say is I really appreciate the chance to get to speak to these people. The podcast will feature musicians, producers, engineers, videographers, people in film, photographers, business owners, anyone that's involved in deep creativity. Primarily, we're going to speak to a lot of musicians and get to know who they are in a deeper sense. And I hope that their journeys and their stories inspire you to follow your dreams and follow your passion, to never give up on a passion. And our first guest is Marielle Kraft. She is an awesome singer-songwriter who performs down here in Delaware, where this podcast is being produced and being sent off from. I have watched her play multiple times now. She is a very, very talented artist. You can check out her stuff on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere that you can essentially get music, you could find her stuff. We talk about a lot of different subjects, and you should give her a listen, more so if you're ever able to catch her live. I think you'll enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Check 1, 2. All right. So we are live with Marielle Kraft. How's it going?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. Just watched you guys play over at the Rusty Rudder. Beautiful day outside.
Gorgeous.
People are actually allowed to go and do some social things out in the world. So what's that like now that you can play music to people again?
What is that like? Socialization. So good. I mean, I haven't, before 2 weeks ago, which is the beginning of June, I hadn't played a show since the beginning of March. And that is the longest I've ever gone in years without playing any gigs or shows. So I felt like a part of me was really missing. Even if these are just, the beach scene bar gigs, they're still so nice to get out there and keep playing.
Yeah. So what were you doing like musically in the sense of, so March until now, you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. What were you doing to stay active, like creatively? Were you kind of not having some room for inspiration, or were you kind of, oh, wow, I have some time to be with me again. I got some ideas. I got some things I want to say. What were you kind of feeling?
I feel like it was a journey to all of those things. I feel like I began with, the abruptness of everybody in the world being like, what the heck is going on? And I couldn't figure out a way to be creative for a few weeks when the quarantine began. And then once I got back home, I was in the middle of tour when quarantine started. So I was in South Carolina. And so I kind of had to work my way back up as everything was shutting down in the world. So once I finally made it home and settled back in and unpacked all the things I had just started for tour, I took about 2 weeks just to veg and binge a ton of shows. I fostered a dog. I learned how to cook. Things that were so the opposite of my career because I haven't really been able to do that in a long time. And then once I started really missing that side of me, I got into writing virtually with a lot of collaborators. So we do Zoom or FaceTime writes. So I've written a good amount of songs that I really love over this quarantine. So that's been really wonderful. And then in terms of playing shows and engaging with my audience, I did a bi-weekly is every other week, right?
That is correct.
Okay. It was a bi-weekly live stream concert. So I would do it on Facebook and Instagram Live, and I would play about a set. So it's about 40 to 45 minutes of my stuff, maybe with a cover thrown in. And it was that was awesome because it was everybody who are my favorite people who come to shows across different cities who are all in the same virtual room that, they were leaving comments, and never are we able as musicians to hear what people are thinking while we're playing. We can guess oh, they're vibing or they're not. But for them to be able to, in real time be oh, that was sick, or I love this part, or sing it out with me. I mean, that was such a unique, engaged experience for me. And so, quarantine has been crazy, and this whole thing has been crazy, but there have been so many surprising positives that came out of it.
It's you see while you're sitting there and you're watching people comment, they have all caps. You know they're screaming the words oh my God, they had 4 exclamation points.
Yeah.
They love that. They dig that.
Exactly.
So you were saying you came back home. Where is home?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you were prior in South Carolina. What part of South Carolina?
I was in Charleston, and then I was in Bluffton. My grandma lives in Bluffton in a beautiful retirement community.
Nice.
So I spent the first week and a half of quarantine there, which was a wonderful treat. And then I eventually came back up.
You had some warm weather.
It was gorgeous. It was 80s, and it was the beginning of March. So that wasn't going to be here. She cooks amazing meals. She has a dog I love. We went for gorgeous walks. It was wonderful.
What kind of dog?
It's a little English Prince Charles something. It's a bougie dog, but it's
a bougie dog.
Yeah. It's cute though. His name's Tucker.
It should have on its tag, it says its name. This is Tucker?
Tucker.
Tucker in quotations, bougie dog.
Bougie dog.
Grandma bougie dog.
That's him. He carries himself that way.
That's okay. That's why he's like a Prince Charles or whatever type dog. That's
Right?
That's just what they do.
He is a prince. Yeah.
We don't judge dogs in that way. So what did you think of Charleston when you were playing down there? That's a pretty interesting area. It's beautiful. It honestly kind of has a like we were talking beach towns and stuff like that. Even though you have Folly Beach, which is a pretty prominent beach down in that area, but Charleston is almost has like an Annapolis feel to it. What was the scene like, crowd like there?
So I had a show in Charleston, and then it was canceled when I got there because it was like the 15th of March, which is the first Saturday that everything started shutting down. So I never actually got to play a show in Charleston, but it was gorgeous, and I was literally there for like 2 hours. So I can't really lend too much knowledge to my experience there, but I would love to go back. So I'm hoping to go back.
Well, I hope you do get back there. So it is an amazing thing in a way because just recently now we've seen the artists going on Zoom doing all these live streams. What do you think right now? Where is technology sitting within the music community? Not even with the streaming of live shows, but just from your perspective. Where do you see technology playing a part with how music is being digested nowadays?
Well, I mean, everybody's so interconnected on social medias and streaming, and you can see, like Spotify, for example, you can see your data in real time. So as an artist on this side, I can see every single day the number of streams that each of my songs got, what playlist it was placed on, where my people live who are listening. So there's so much more access to this kind of data that I can really drive what I'm doing to specific audiences more than just guessing. Hopefully someone will listen in, Chicago or whatever. So that's been really incredible as an independent artist, kind of analyzing and utilizing that data. But in terms of the live streaming thing, I think that's a valid point because it's almost as if we saw an entire new sect of the industry open up in this quarantine. Live streaming just used to be like a quick, I'm going to hop in and play one song sort of thing on like a random Tuesday. But people are now utilizing this as we now have a couple platforms that people know how to use, Zoom, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, that are well versed enough that, we as artists can do it at any time. And I think we're going to start to see tours that are kind of a hybrid of in-person shows and live stream shows because now it's becoming normalized that people can hop in the comfort of their own home. I worry personally that there will be less of a drive to get out to venues and stand in line and wait and, get bumped around because people can be in their sweatpants, on their computers or TVs at home now that we've gotten used to that. But I also feel like there's such a magic in the room when you're at a concert that hopefully real music lovers will always go. But I'm going to utilize live streams more for sure in terms of technology in my career. I have been doing biweekly live streams and I've been reaching new audiences that I didn't know were there. And so to keep them around, keep them engaged, not for a while because I just finished up with them, but probably in the fall, once every so often, another live stream.
So you were even saying you're looking on this data, and for people who are listening, if you could kind of explain again, so people are more so on the sense of Spotify where they're listening to the artist. Mm-hmm. Now, you're saying you have access to almost like the background of everything, and what does that mean to you, when you see these type of statistics, because you're not alone in that. So what is that kind of like when you see those types of numbers or stats, how is that affecting you?
Yeah, I mean, it's good because I'm a very competitive person, so it allows me to see very tangible progress on small and large scales. So if I put out a new song, for example, you submit it to Spotify weeks before it comes out so that the curators on Spotify are able to listen, and then they can decide if they're going to place you on one of their editorial playlists or not. And so all of you listening, if you have Spotify, follow your favorite artist. Click the follow button because that action impacts their career more than you'd ever know.
Now, why is that?
So following an artist means that when they release something, it'll immediately go into your release radar, which is a playlist that Spotify curates specifically for its listeners. So your release radar will be different than mine. I mean, you love Dave Matthews, so if he ever came out with a new song, that would be on your release radar. It wouldn't be on mine because I don't follow him on Spotify, but if I did, it would be on my release radar. It would be delivered to me on Friday morning. So for me, having followers means that my music is directly delivered to them every Friday morning whenever it comes out. And that allows, just the ease of access to them. At the same time, following helps to boost the algorithm of how the song is doing in the Spotify platform. So if followers are listening and then they're posting that song on their Instagram story, or they're posting it on Facebook, or they're saving it to their playlist, all of those things are like sort of being aggregated into this, algorithm in Spotify that allows it to be placed on bigger and bigger playlists that will bring more new listeners into your story. So followers are a huge way that Spotify says, okay, this artist has crazy streams, but they only have 200 followers. So people don't actually care about them as a person. They don't actually invest in them as an artist. But if somebody has like 10,000 streams on a song, but 4,000 followers, that ratio is unbelievable. And Spotify can see that they have 4,000 people who are invested in this career and are watching this artist. So we're going to push them more. So if you love an artist, absolutely follow them. Like if you go find me after this podcast, please follow me, because all of these things really mean a lot on, the bigger scale. But back to like the data question about Chicago or like where my listeners are, I can see a literal breakdown of the top 100 cities where my listeners are and how many listeners are in there each month. So, New York, Chicago, Philly, all those places have numbers next to them. So it helps me to plan tours and to know like where to put my like money in terms of like ad marketing. Who am I going to, what demographics am I going to focus on?
Interesting. Okay. Now, this seems very new to our, like, hearing this type of thing, how music has been done. I mean, I'm trying to think. I was a freshman in 2008. There was nothing of that in that sense. So this is a very type of new nuance to how things are being done. Do you think it's positive or negative?
Well, I think that, this data has kind of always been around, but it's only been accessed by like the high ups in labels, or, we as independent people have never really had access to this kind of thing. So that's absolutely new. I am so stoked about it because it allows me to have power in my decision making. It allows me to make a call and then directly see a result from it. Sometimes it's arbitrary and like you'll get a spike in numbers and have no idea why that happens. But other times you push a ton of effort forward and you see the results in terms of data and you're like, wow, that worked. Let me do this differently or the same next time. So for me, I love the ability to just like have the power in my career. And I think access to data gives me that.
Now, let's even go what we were saying before all this data, before all this. When did you first start playing?
I started playing, around 15, 16 in high school.
Primarily, you play guitar.
Yep.
Now, are you multi-instrument faceted, or are you more so guitar is your baby?
Guitar is definitely it. I can dabble a little on keys. I can dabble a little on bass. But really, it's the guitar. If I were to go out and play a show, it'd be on guitar. But I started playing. I got my first real guitar at 16. And I made a lot of friends in high school who were incredible musicians who are now doing it full time in LA and Nashville. And they kind of took me under their little wing and said, we're playing this John Mayer song in our basement. Like, here are the 4 chords. And that's how I learned how to play guitar. So it was a very cool, natural process. Sometimes that bites me in the butt because I didn't learn theory. And so it's been a lot harder of a transition for me as an adult after playing for 7 years to learn which notes go in which key and how I can use that in songwriting. But I've been playing since about 16. I've been songwriting since about 18. And then I've been touring for about 2 years.
And how old are you now?
25.
Okay.
Just turned.
Nice. Well, happy late birthday.
Thank you.
So how does every musician is different in why they're picking up a guitar, or where they're exposed to. Everyone has music around them all the time, whether it be the radio, you go to the gym, the grocery store. I was bored the other day and I YouTube grocery store playlist just to see what seriously, because I'm you always hear certain songs in the grocery store. I hear Sheryl Crow every time. I'm trying to go pick up deodorant or something, and there's Sheryl Crow again.
You know what song I always hear in the supermarket and never anywhere else? Do you remember the one baby, there's a shark in the water?
Yes,
you know that one?
I do.
I have not heard that song in years, and it's on every single time I'm at Acme. Why? It's wild. But get me on one of those supermarket playlists, though. If they're going to be spinning for years, absolutely.
So I also learned recently that Baby Shark has been around for a while.
Yes. I actually went to camp when I was 9, and we learned Baby Shark. And then when it came this whole global phenomenon last year, or 2 years ago, I was mind blown. Mind blown.
Damn.
They got a little bit of a new melody. The new one has a little bit of a changed melody.
I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know I don't even know I'm new to this. I'm new to this whole Baby Shark world. And now you go on the boardwalks down here. It's like they have like Baby Shark shirts, Grandpa Shark shirts.
Oh my gosh.
Sister Shark.
When will it end? You know?
It won't. I also realized that if you ever need to know what's going on in the world, in the sense of what's hip and like what's cool, just go to like Ocean City, Maryland boardwalk.
So true.
Go to like Virginia Beach boardwalk, some boardwalk in like a major beach town, and you'll see like
cool story, bro. Like that was a phrase like years ago, but that was on shirts.
TikTok is, just get a TikTok logo. A couple years ago, it was like now it's like Snapchat. It's old school. It's like TikTok. Get a TikTok shirt.
Yeah.
Most popular rappers are on there now.
Totally.
So going back, did you have any family or, where was music first like hitting a vein for you?
Sure. I do not have a musical family. I'm definitely the black sheep. I have 2 older brothers and, 2 parents who are all brilliant and wonderfully talented, but just not musically.
In what ways?
Well, my dad and my brother are like incredible businessmen. They're like, they can sell you anything and you would buy it.
They can sell Baby Shark.
They probably could. My middle brother, Rob, is just like an incredible thinker. He's like an intellectual, just like very thoughtful, very analytical person. So he would dive into like old literature with you for hours, and he loses me, but he's brilliant. My mom she can do, how like moms have mom skills.
Yes.
Like
you don't go to college for mom skills,
right?
It's intangible for some.
She's like the mom of the mom skills. Like I think that she's like the mother of the mom skills. Like right. she could make a bed blindfolded and it would still be crisp corners like the army. Like it's unbelievable.
She's almost like Dumbledore of moms.
Yes,
except not a man.
But not a man. She's quite
she's
a queen.
At that status.
Yeah, but I don't want to just paint her in a domestic vein. She's like an unbelievable educator. So
Absolutely.
she was a teacher by trade, and then she raised us to like know how to read chapter books by kindergarten. Like it was unbelievable. So I think, a huge reason why we are, successful in our various ways or hope to be is because of my mom and my dad. They crush, but musically they weren't really involved. And so when I started to really be into music and start to write songs, they were supportive. They were like, this is really cool, but we just can't really offer you much other than like, we'll show up, and like, we'll get you a guitar for Christmas. So that was really dope. But most of my family isn't really musical. I have some like extended family that I'm not tight with that is sort of musical, but it was my friends for sure. For me, that was the influence. I was surrounded by just unbelievable talent at this very small public high school in Rhode Island, East Greenwich High School. And the fact that there are so many of us who are full-time in the industry, like making waves, is insane. People are often like, what's in the water in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, because this isn't normal. But yeah, they have motivated me more than anybody else.
What's interesting with musicians, you see it's a very individualistic manifestation. And it sounds like the intellectual abilities that were in your family, you're also there, but for you it just happened to be so on the creative, artistic.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's left brain or right brain. It's just,
I think it's the right brain.
We'll go with that. And if it's not, and listeners, they'll be like,
don't look it up.
Left brain.
Just believe us, please.
Yeah, sure. Did you feel your family was very supportive in your endeavors of moving forward in an artistic pursuit?
Yeah, I was raised to be super independent. They did a really great job of raising us to be adults in the world. And so when I was faced with the decision to leave, so for the listeners, I went to school, went to UD, became a full-time educator with my education degree.
And that's a University of Delaware, home of
yes.
Joe Flacco.
Yes, a lot of famous Joes came out of UD. And Elena Deladon, let us not forget.
I see, I don't know, who is that?
Oh, Devin. Oh my gosh. Elena Deladon was the women's basketball WNBA Player of the Year and also Rookie of the Year, and also set records at University of Delaware as this unbelievable female athlete in general. But she also gives back a ton to Delaware. So she was born and raised in Wilmington, does a ton of charitable efforts, and is just an icon. She's like, I don't know, maybe almost 30 now, so she's young, but she's like the new like athletic icon from University of Delaware.
Very cool.
Elena Deladon
has those philanthropist type attributes moving forward. See, that's great when you hear people that had those type of successes and they go on to have, a give back mentality. I think that's important.
So important.
And even as a student for you, I'm assuming, that's what's so great when you see people cultivating their skill sets for a positive in this world. Amidst everything that goes on anymore, we we're shooting and we're seeing a shift where people see the importance and desire of where positive energy needs to be put into, and to see it come full circle. So, and it's inspirational in a way. Like you're saying, this basketball player, she might not be in the realm of music, she might not be in many different realms, but that still impacts people in so many ways you can't imagine. Like, I've never heard of her before, but that's inspiring to me.
Go look her up. She's dope.
I'll have to.
Not to go off on a tangent on Elena Delle Donne, but really cool fun fact that not a lot of people know about her.
And what's the name again?
Elena Delle Donne.
Elena Delle Donne.
Yeah, it's a sick name.
Yeah, it is a sick name.
Yeah. But she has her own like side business outside of basketball. It's a woodworking business. Can you believe she and her wife make like custom pieces that are like bougie woodworking pieces that are very cool? She's a woman of all talents. I mean, truly.
So living in Rhode Island, what's that like? You have the cool states nowadays. You got Cali. I'm going to Cali. I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to Austin, Texas.
Austin's cool.
Austin is cool.
Chicago's
I've never been,
cool.
but I've seen pictures and it looks cool.
Yeah. Me neither, but I want to go.
But you don't hear, I'm going to Manhattan. I'm going to these places. I'm going to Colorado, which is amazing, rightfully so. But what's Rhode Island doing?
Rhode Island is the small state, big heart. It's great. It's gorgeous. It's the ocean state. So we have a lot of really great beaches. We're like the small town feel, we're like the New England small town feel. You got Boston, that's like big New England. And then we've got Maine, that's like granola New England with like Vermont.
Granola New England, what is that?
Yeah, it's like everyone's like
honey,
hipster.
Honey granola? Or like
granola as in like
chocolate chip
everybody
granola?
like walks on trails all the time. I'm totally stereotyping in the wrong way, but like everybody like canoes and like has like sustainable efforts in their home and are just like really just like the ideal human, I would say. And then you have Rhode Island, that's sort of like southern New England, small town, like still wants to be included in New England, but it's like kind of outside of the edge of New England, but it's cool. There's some really amazing small towns in Rhode Island and places that, I literally have it tattooed on my arm. My favorite place in Rhode Island is called Beavertail. But there's a lot of hidden treasures there. I didn't appreciate it growing up as much as I do now, visiting back, as with, I feel like everybody in
why
their hometown.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think as human beings we do that?
I think it has a lot to do with autonomy. When I went to Rhode Island growing up, my parents chose for us to move there as a family. I didn't get any decision-making power in that. And so, not that I was bitter, but it was never my home that I chose for myself. And I think the ability to travel back on my own regard and by my own decision allows me to take back some of that power and really see Rhode Island for the full beauty that it is, rather than like through the lens of, I landed here because my parents brought us here. Funny enough, my parents grew up in Delaware. So Delaware was always the place where my parents grew up here. Like, I don't really care about it. But once I made it my own home, I chose to go to school here. I chose to move to Wilmington. Like, I have grown in such appreciation for Delaware, way more than my parents driving that into me for 20 years. So I think it's definitely about, our own choices. Do you agree?
I do. I think whatever you're doing in your life, you're experiencing situations, and as they unfold, it's all perspective, and perceptions change, and things happen where you get a chance to look at things in a different light after experiencing certain type of situations. But now you were saying, as far as Rhode Island, this tattoo you have on your arm, are you finding inspiration from that still in, your travels back up there? Like in your songwriting, are you writing about those places, your childhood? Like, where does that affect you in your songwriting at all?
I think I'll always be somewhat anchored to Rhode Island, but my most formative times, I think, in terms of songwriting happened in college and post-college. So a lot of my associations of like home and hometown are now Delaware, but I think I will always be like Rhode Island raised. So I go back and I appreciate it. And the reason I have this on my arm is because this is the place where I decided to leave teaching full time and go into music. And so I went up there. I used to get my clearest thoughts at this place called Beavertail. And it's like on the rocks on the ocean, kind of really remote on the island of Jamestown in Rhode Island. And so I would go there in high school to just like sort through stuff. And so when I was teaching middle school full-time, when I graduated college, over spring break, I went home to see my parents and went out to Beavertail and was like, okay, I'm not like fully fulfilled in this teaching career. And I know there's more untapped potential in me. And I think it's music. And that was sort of like where I had that like big conversation with myself, and I made the leap. And so to remind myself of the commitment I made and the risk that I took to do music full time, I got that lighthouse that I was sitting near tattooed on my arm. So every time I play guitar, I can see it when I like look down at the chords, and like reminds myself that this is real and you made this leap. So give it everything you got.
Say you saw someone who was trying to cultivate their talent, and they came to you and said, I really think I want to give this a try and kind of give this a shot. What do you say to them?
I'd say go. You'll always wonder what would happen if you go. And if you don't go, then you'll regret it. I really believe that. I mean, the worst thing is, right? Like if you go to try to follow your dream and then you quote unquote fail, or you don't reach, what you want to be, then you pivot and do something else. Like you've already proven to yourself that you can pivot once because you followed the dream. So it's the ability is in you. So then pivot somewhere else, or invest in somebody else who has that dream that you can get behind. I think there are always lanes that we can, take to follow our dream. Even if the one we may have thought about doesn't work, there are still other options. It's never going to be the right time. Life will never be convenient for you to drop everything and follow your dream. It's just not going to happen. It's not designed that way. But if you believe in yourself more than anybody else, I once got this piece of advice that if you bet on yourself, you won't lose. So that's what I would tell this person, or you, or whoever it is. It's like if you bet on yourself and you believe in yourself more than anybody else, this is impossible for you to lose.
That's great. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now you're saying you live in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
You're currently playing throughout right now in Dewey Beach, primarily Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get inspired by the water in a way? And for people who don't know, like Rhode Island, I've been to Newport, Rhode Island. Is it the Breakers? The Breakers
Mm-hmm.
mansion.
The mansion? Oh my gosh.
That was insane.
Yeah.
They had like the bathtub.
Insane.
It looked like it was gold.
It was bigger than my house, I think. Crazy.
It's just that thing was probably like, I don't know, probably a lot, like maybe $1 million.
Probably.
I don't know, but it looked like it was. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember going up there and just the cliff sides and all the rocks along the water. And do you find a groundedness within that type of environment?
Yeah, definitely. My family also, we were a beach family. Like any vacation we took usually revolved around a beach. So I've always found solace near the water. I've never lived too far from the water, and I'm nervous because I'm moving in a few months inward into the middle of the U.S. And that for me, I think is going to be one of the most challenging pieces, is not having the ability to escape into the coastline, into the water, where like there's just such a sense of freedom and like inspiration there. But, you find inspiration in different ways, so I'm sure I'll find something.
As I was saying, you're playing right now in Dewey. Have you been doing more so originals, covers within the area? Like what's the type of gigging right now?
Yeah, so mostly at Dewey Beach, it's like a party town, more or less. It's a lot of, people love to hear the songs they know. So if I have a new audience, which is most places, we'll do a lot of popular songs people can sing along to, and then we'll kind of warm them up, we'll butter them up a little bit, and then we'll slide in a couple of my originals every once in a while. We, as in me and my duo partner, Sam. And so he's in my band, so he knows my originals, back and front, which is great. And so we will read the crowd and throw in, talk about it a little bit. And then a lot of times they'll go and find me on Spotify, which is the goal, right? So it's cool. Dewey gives me the ability to reach, hundreds of new people every single week, since it's a vacation spot. So you have some of the regulars who come back, like this is your second week back. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. For sure. But then I get new ears every time. So the standard is always high. But I would say it's probably like 75 to 80% covers, 20% originals at this point. But the shows when I tour are all original.
What are some of the places you're playing around Dewey?
Yeah, so Sam and I have a residency at Rusty Rudder on Thursdays, which is 2 to 5 p.m., the happy hour shift. It's gorgeous. Nice. And then we have a Thursday night residency at Jimmy's Grill right across from Bottle and Cork from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. So we close out at Jimmy's Grill. So it's a long Thursday. I mean, it's a marathon every week, but it's dope because we just get to like do what we love all day together. Otherwise, so that's every single Thursday at Rudder and Jimmy's. And then otherwise, we'll sporadically be playing different places. Like Sam plays North Beach every Friday and Sunday. I play Grain, which literally just opened last week, which is at the Lewis Ferry. And they have a really cool spot, so I'll be at Grain on the Rocks. And Cantina, we both play Cantina right up in Rehoboth. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool opportunities down here. I love this scene.
Do you find some fulfillment in playing covers?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, You know, like when I play a cover, that doesn't mean it's robbing anything from my originals. I think that if I'm in the mindset of being down here and I want to play what people want to hear, I want people to enjoy themselves. It's not about me. Like being down here, like when I headline a show in DC, like more or less that's about me because people are showing up, buying a ticket to see me and my band. But down here, like people are genuinely here to have a good time. So I want to service them the best that I can. If I can squeeze in an original and they enjoy that, then I'm adding to their joy. But if I am defiant to that and try to, almost butt heads and be like, I know you want to hear songs, but I'm a real musician, so I'm going to play something different. I just feel like that's almost like a waste of energy. Like find a different place to do that. There are so many places you can do that. But if you're going to be in a place like this that thrives off of that sort of like familiar scene, either you buy in or you don't, So for me, I find a lot more success in buying in because people enjoy us. And then once they enjoy us, they'll come and talk to us. And once they talk to us, they'll discover I have original music and then they'll go and follow me. And so at the end of the day, the goal is still the same. It's just the avenue is different to get there.
Now, one cool thing is I've been even personally finding some new original music from some artists that I've been kind of really, really being inspired by, primarily Phoebe Bridgers.
Oh, so good.
I don't know what it is, but lyrically, she's been resonating with me, and I feel she has a very good sense of, it's very literal in a way, like her songs are it's not they're not tied in metaphors, and I don't even know, that's what I'm saying, I don't even know if that's the right way to put it. It's poetic. It very is, but it's very almost like straight up. Like she's telling very straight up stories.
It's raw.
It's very, very well done. And now there's other artists, Julian Baker.
So Boy Genius. I was
going to say Boy Genius. And then have you ever heard of Katie Pruitt?
Oh, I love Katie Pruitt. My gosh, I love Katie Pruitt.
There's kind of like, not a resurgence, but there's...
I can tell you spent time in Nashville if you know these names.
Well, a funny story about that. But even before getting into that, there's a nice wave happening right now where you're seeing like female singer-songwriter storytellers. And it's great. And I've been gravitating as well towards Julian Baker because of her guitar style. It's very reminiscent of stuff that I do. Almost has like a shoegaze, like ambient, emo type vibe to it. And, that's a little bit different from Phoebe Bridgers. But I've heard even in your music where you're like intertwining those electric guitar, almost like a Julian Baker does, but then you have the acoustic, like kind of like Phoebe Bridgers does. Do you have a preference to what you like playing more?
Yeah, I mean, I naturally gravitate toward acoustic because that's where I learned to play. That's how I write. But electric guitar is used a ton in pop music right now. Like main riffs in pop songs are usually on electric guitar or like a synth. And so to kind of lean into that pop vein that I'm going for, a lot of my songs will be electric guitar driven. And I'll just take what I wrote on acoustic and then basically translate it onto an electric. But when I'm playing live shows, I play acoustic, and then I have an electric guitarist, usually that's Sam, with me. So we kind of are marrying the two elements in a live show to give it a bigger sound, to really kind of blend all of the different styles that I'm inspired by. So yeah, I think it just, whatever the song needs, I try to do that for it.
Nice. So Katie Pruitt, I had met her, honestly, she was very relevant. This was almost 2.5 years ago now. Honestly, maybe close to 3. I don't even really know. But she actually came over one time to help me with a song I was working on. And it's called Medicine Man. It hasn't been released or anything like that. It's just something that I have kind of in my back pocket. But I remember, because seeing her, I was like, damn, like, she's going. Like, she's going to the finish line. Like, this girl is going to blow up, which she is very much so doing incredible stuff. And if anyone is listening and hasn't heard of Katie Pruitt, please go and check out her album. It's called Expectations. Phenomenal work. Very, very, very refreshing. Has a great middle ground of just so many different styles, but primarily it's like singer-songwriter nature, but still kind of has like that, almost to me, it had like a dream pop element to it.
She's got an edge to her, which I really love.
There's a spaciness to it, Like she's a great guitarist. But I remember when she came over, I was like shitting my pants because I'm like, holy shit, like this girl's gonna be huge one day. Like, what the hell am I like? And she did. She helped me. She wrote this little melody and ended up, it's hopefully one day people can hear it.
Nice.
For you, how do you go about writing songs? Are you you know, do you have to go out into nature and feel something come to you, or you're just walking down the street one day and you're like, oh, I got this lyric idea? Like, how do you go about stuff?
It's more the second one than the first one. It's a lot of very common and like fleeting moments that I try to capture. There are so many that I don't catch because I'm just in the middle of my life. I'll be in like the grocery store and like I'll overhear a conversation.
You'll hear Baby Shark or Sheryl Crow.
Exactly. Or like something will hit me, or like I'll get a text and it like made me react. So I'm like, why didn't it make me react? And so I do a lot of jotting down on my notepad, and then I would say maybe like 10% of those ever become a song. Like I'll, you know, whether I go into a writing session with somebody else or I go home and sit down with a guitar, that's usually my stem is from my just like continual notes in my phone. Sometimes it'll be like oh, where did this come from kind of thing, and it just explodes into a song. But I don't really need like an ethereal, like life-changing experience to write a song. A lot of my songs are very much like relatable, small moments that I am just like talking about.
What do you feel like you're writing about recently?
Recently, well, I'm recently in love, so that's been really fun.
Nice.
But yeah, most of my songs, unfortunately, are like sad girl breakup songs. And not in the sad. So it's interesting because like I felt sad when I wrote them, but they also took like a pop production. So it's like, okay, it's like sad, but I'm going to end the song with a little bit of hope.
You can make that a genre, like, oh, I'm listening to some good indie. Oh yeah, I'm listening to some sad girl breakup right now.
Yeah, sad girl hopeful breakup is really what it is. Cool. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was at, was like, I really love telling a full story in a song and including details and like making it hurt and then kind of bringing you to a place where you feel whole again by the end of the song, or at least like you can be whole again. But yeah, my songs recently, I mean, I kind of just reflect what I'm feeling. It's really hard to write a sad song when you're like stoked on life. So I've been writing upbeat, which is awesome for summer, you know, pop songs, fun anthems. But yeah, we'll see whenever the tides turn. If they do, then what I'll be writing then, you know?
So what was your most recent release then?
Most recent
and when
release.
Was that?
Yeah, so February 2020, I did a dual release with my collaborator, another singer-songwriter named Joshua Howard. It's called In It Together, which it came out February 8th. And it's unbelievable because...
And what was his name?
Joshua Howard.
Joshua Howard.
Yeah, he's an incredible singer-songwriter, more like soulful folk in Philly. And so
He's a Philly-based artist?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we became really good friends over the last couple of years. And then we wrote a song together last year because we both had gotten off the road from touring and we were like just demoralized and exhausted and felt like we weren't allowed to complain because we were following our dream, you know? So it's like how are we able to still be like, I'm feeling all of these really heavy things, but to people who aren't in the industry, it's hard because they're like, but you get to play on stages. And like, yes, you're so right. Like, I'm so grateful, but some days are hard too. So we were struggling just with like finding space to be able to like kind of, I don't know, vent, I guess, and work through some of these hard things. So we confide a lot in each other, and we ended up writing this song in one of those just like coffee shop sessions. It's called In It Together, where basically we were reminding each other that I totally hear you and see you, but like you're not alone. Like I'm with you. And it became this incredible produced like anthem vibe with a gospel choir of all of our friends we brought into the studio and like all real instruments. And it is my favorite song of all time that I've ever put out. And it came out a month before coronavirus, and now, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and so many things in our world that are really like, I don't know, testing our ability to be united. And, you know, the election, there's so many things. And so this song to come out unknowingly in such like a relevant time was something that we couldn't have chosen ourselves, you know? But yeah, that's out on Spotify, iTunes. We have a music video, we have an acoustic video, we have all the good stuff, but that's called In It Together.
And then prior to that, what else have you released?
Yeah, so I came out with my first EP last summer, 2019, July. So it's called The Deep End. It's 5 songs. And that's my first like studio produced, like 5 set of songs. And then prior to that, I just had another single called How Far You Feel that came out about a year prior. So, you know, I only have about, 7 or 8 songs that are like produced and out. But I have so many in the arsenal that I've been building, and I'm excited for the next chapter.
How do you go about, what to use, what not to use? And how do you know where you say, you know what, Is it in the moment type thing where you say, you know what, I'm feeling that these are the songs that should be here? How do you know? Should this be an EP? Should this be an album? Like, do you ever battle with that within yourself? Or
oh my gosh, yeah. Literally all the time. I think this is the first real time in my career, I'm almost about 2 years in, that I have enough material that I can be choosing, Like when I was first writing my songs, I didn't know yet what was my best and what was my worst because I didn't have enough to judge. And so I was just sort of putting out the ones that felt right and that felt like I could play them every night and not hate them at the end of it. And they're good. I mean, they're solid songs, but I didn't really find like my real voice and style until maybe this past 9 months to 6 months. And I'm still finding it. So now I have this collection of written songs that are not out, that nobody's heard, but I have this ability to really look at them critically and say, okay, which ones could fit together in a story that makes sense? Which ones of these represent me best? Which ones are the style that I am trying to pursue? And so not every song I write is going to fit for my artist project. Maybe it'll fit for somebody else. Maybe it's just that was that moment and it'll never be there again. But all the time I'm changing which songs I love, which ones I can't wait to release, or which ones never will be released, or, it totally changes. I think the only thing that helps me wade through is playing them for trusted people that aren't afraid to be like, not your best, or like that was so heart-wrenching and that needs to be in the world with maybe I didn't see it that way. So I think having like a trusted circle that I play things for really helps me. But at the end of the day, I'm the one playing it every night. So if I'm not at peace with it, then it's not going out.
Sometimes I feel as listeners, we put heavy expectations on how an artist should be perceiving, almost like, well, it's not like, oh, you owe me this. It's just there is a heavy evolutionary thing that naturally happens with artists. How important do you think it is to grow with an artist? And do you think it's natural sometimes to say, well, you know what, they're going in this direction. I don't know if that's kind of vibing with me anymore. You think that's an okay thing, or what's your kind of thoughts on artist, development and evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about that now that I'm hearing you kind of say it that way. I think that it would be silly of us to expect an artist not to evolve over the course of their career. I mean, we as people are hopefully constantly evolving and bettering ourselves and, refining our edges. And if an artist who's doing this day in and day out for their entire life is doing the exact same thing, I mean, that's probably manic, right? I mean, they have to be able to evolve in a certain way. And maybe they'll go completely left field and do something so opposite because that's cathartic for them, or that's a new adventure for them, or maybe they'll just evolve a little bit in like 10% or 20%. And that's like a safer way to evolve. I think that it's totally natural for people to ebb and flow with being fans of certain artists. I mean, I used this example earlier with you in the car, but Taylor Swift has evolved in many different chapters of her life. I mean, she started as like a 16-year-old country queen, and now she's like straight pop, and she had like a little bit of like hip hop influences and Reputation. And I didn't love every album more than the last. Can't lie to you there. But I still have an appreciation for her taking those risks and trying to discover who she is and her truest self. And I think that it took making so many turns in all these different directions for her to really land on, or maybe she hasn't yet, find a way to land on what feels right to her. Because I think at the end of the day, we can recognize when an artist is being true to themselves and when they're not. And especially now with social media breaking down barriers of, authenticity and like seeing people on Facebook Live and literally in real time, it feels like we're FaceTiming with an artist who's on live, It doesn't really give them room anymore to fake it till they make it. So if they're struggling with something, or if they want to move through, and change genres, then let them. If they make new fans, great. If they lose some fans, then they'll come back. At the end of the day, they're in charge of their career. But I think there's something really beautiful as in evolving with an artist, like a fan evolving with an artist, even if not every era is their favorite.
So you were saying, though, that's a good word, cathartic. Now, when you're like creating, do you feel it's very, is it more on the cathartic side, or is it more so, do you think, not in a business sense, but do you have more in mind than just saying, I need to get this out? Like, is it a nice blend of the in-between?
Yeah.
What is that?
I think it's a blend, but it's not an equal blend. I think it's like 70% I need to get this out and process this, And then if it's a song that I feel like could make it out into the world, then that 30% comes in to be like, okay, well, how can we make this radio ready, or how can we make this digestible to listeners? But I think a song always starts at a very true intentions of like, I am feeling so much right now, or maybe I'm not feeling much at all, and let's write about that. It's always just like checking in with myself. If it becomes more, then that's kind of where the business comes in.
There's a big dynamic of, we're going back to kind of that social media thing, the way music is digested and quick Instagram clips, stories, you're even more so recently, I'm just realizing too, like I have a younger sister in high school, and she's constantly sending me Snapchats of musicians. And I mean, they're like 10 or what did I say, Snapchat? I meant TikTok.
Oh.
See, I don't. I meant TikTok.
Different.
The new Vine. That's what it is. Yep. You remember Vine?
Of course.
Oh my God, that was a big deal for a little bit.
Absolutely.
But she's sending me. There's so many musicians now on TikTok, and it's crazy. I mean, they're like 10-second clips, but it has like millions of views. Mm-hmm. It's just I think it's great to see. I think that's what I like most about someone like Phoebe Bridgers, where I'm like, it's just real. Like, it's just so, it's not even stripped. It feels real. Like, you can kind of get that energy from it. So now, are you working on anything new? You were saying you got a good contrast of songs you're trying to look between. Are you currently like in the studio or demoing stuff out? Where are you sitting right now in the midst of new stuff?
Yeah, so I'm just doing some demoing right now, literally just in my home studio setup. Like my main studio in Philly, Retro City, isn't quite fully open yet. And also, it's free to demo in my home. So to really figure out which songs might be worth taking to the real studio and fully arranging, I like to demo it myself and kind of listen back and sit with it a little bit, figure out what's worth the like monetary and time investment. I don't have like a set of releases right now just because of the way the world is going. I'm not sure. I like to really tour off of releases because that promotes them. And so until I have like a tour that's really set up and like set in stone and not in jeopardy of being postponed again, that's probably when I'll start to be gearing up some releases. But the most I can do now is just keep at it, keep refining my skills, keep sharpening, keep writing, keep getting better so that I'm not using this time as a waste. I really want to, use it productively.
Now, what is tour like? Is Hollywood as it can seem, or is it work? Like, is it hard work, exhausting work? What's it like? Say, someone out there who has no idea. What is that like?
Well, there's a lot of different kinds of tours. I think the tours that we see in movies with the big tour bus and tour managers and like, everything in your green room when you get there, that is like the 1% of touring. The percent of touring that I do is the other 1%. Maybe I'm the other 5%. We'll see. Where
we can go with 5.
Okay, we'll get to 5.
6.
Where
Why not?
where I have this string of dates that are set up between me and my agent, and I go out anywhere between 4 days to like 3 weeks on tour. So I can go anywhere from like Boston, hitting every city down to Atlanta, Nashville, Chicago, Cleveland, wherever. And basically either I'm solo, just me and my guitar, and I show up and I set up my merch, and then I play my set, and I hope that it makes an impact. Or I'm with my duo partner, Sam, who plays guitar for me and sings backup, or I'm able to bring my band. So I don't really bring my band unless I can pay them. I want to make it worth everybody's time. So the cities where I can pay them are Boston, New York, Philly, and DC right now.
So like big Northeast scene.
Yeah, and I've built audiences in those places that will show up enough that I can really make it worth it and have a big show and pay the band, and it's a whole big thing, which is great. But I mean, touring is a lot of, it's a lot of every single day is different, and like figuring out, what is your routine that you have control over when everything else in your world is changing every day. So like where you sleep is going to change every day. What you eat is going to change every day. The people you see are going to change every single day. The venue. What are things that you can control to keep some sanity and rhythm in your life? So for me, that's like journaling every day is huge for me. A little bit of quiet time is really important for me. I'm very extroverted, but I can't be overstimulated for too long or else I'll not be able to perform. Having a set routine in sound check, making sure that all of that is, feeling consistent. And then, giving your all every night. and still sleeping.
Yeah.
And then driving for 7 hours the next day to do it again. So it's just like crazy.
I was going to say sleep sounds very important. Definitely does. Now, it's interesting because you talk about like a routine. Mm-hmm. So it's not just you're kicking it back in the van, smoking joints, cracking some beers.
I'm not. Some do. I don't do that. I find more like wholesome routine with like calling my mom or like journaling or like having some tea. You know, those are my pillars of routine that keep me grounded.
Nice. So, how important do you find that is how important is the mental side of this that you do?
So important. I think the physical is underrated a lot. Like staying in shape, being able to like have a good diet and sleep are so important. I mean, you literally won't play a good set if you aren't nourished or like well slept, you know, well rested. And emotionally, it's you can be so drained by giving so much of yourself to a room of people every night that if you don't have a way to recharge, the next night you're not going to be able to give as much. And then the next night, and you're just going to deplete over and over until there's nothing left of you. And I learned all of this the hard way. Nobody goes into touring like an expert at touring. And so I'm about a year and a half, 2 years in. So I've found what works for me and what doesn't. And I will as the tours grow too, you know? But it's been so important for me to keep consistency in even just small ways, or else I would lose myself.
Do you meditate or anything like that? Do you go
Sometimes.
for runs or what?
Yeah, I'll go for runs or walk. I'll do some yoga. Sometimes I just like try, even if it's like not a run every day. If it's like a run one day, walk one day, yoga one day, you know, like play basketball one day, like whatever it could be. I need to like move my body every single day, especially when I'm in the car for 5 to 6 hours and then I play a show. I have to do it.
Yeah. So is it something you're cultivating prior to even touring? You know, do you have a good health routine even outside of
I try to keep it consistent. I mean, so then it's not like a culture shock when I get on the road again. This has been the first time I've been home since quarantine started. This has been the first time I've been home for more than 2 weeks at a time in the last 2 years. So having 3.5 months in the same place has been wild for me. I'm able to like actually sleep a certain amount of hours every night and wake up and have the same kitchen with the same diet and the same neighborhood to run in and like these things that I've never been able to establish for myself. And it's done wonders for the soul. The self-care and the routine is life-changing. So that's pretty awesome.
So I had a friend even ask me recently, he was like, do you have any songs that are just painful to play? Not in the sense like just emotionally. Like, do you have a song that you play and it, you know, pulls your heartstrings because of the experience? So you as a songwriter, you said you had it sounds like some darker, more, we'll just say on the darker side of what you were writing about. Do you have any songs for you in a way that you're like, oh, damn, that brings you to a place or kind of hits you in that way?
Of course, yeah. I put out one of them on my EP last year. It's called Box. I kind of buried it as the 4th track in the EP. Didn't put it out as a single.
What's that about?
It's about, the longest and hardest relationship of my life. And then it ended. And just when you're turning the corner into being okay again, a box of my stuff showed up on my doorstep and like reopened all of the things for me, literally and figuratively. And so I wrote this song like on my bedroom floor at 2 a.m., like with the box in front of me, literally just as a way to like breathe and process and figure it out. And it was a song that I was like, I will never play this for anybody. Like it will literally never live outside of my bedroom. And there was one very small listening room show, maybe like almost 2 years ago, that I played it because it just felt right. And I like trusted the audience and we just like had this connection. And there was not a dry eye in the room. And they were like, we need that song. And this is a room of strangers. So that for me was a wake-up call that maybe some of my most vulnerable songwriting is actually the most important to put out because people can connect with it in a way that they, you know, can't with other songs. So Box for me, every time I play it, I don't play it every night because it's like, you know, it's hard, it's heavy. But when I do, it's always, I'm transported right back into that moment on my bedroom floor. And in some ways it's really healing because the more I play it, the more I'm able to like step away from it and it's not as hard to talk about because I have to play it and talk about it. But on the other hand, it's like I have to relive it over and over instead of leaving it in the past. So I've found a balance that works for me. I don't like cry on stage or anything. I used to, but I don't anymore. So that's good. But I'm grateful to have the ability to share how I feel and have other people feel the same.
Well, that's kind of the thing, which is crazy because even when I think about it, it seems darker, and I don't even think looking at it that way. It's just, it's real.
Yeah.
It's so many people have been through those things, and that's why we're so prone to hearing, you know, a song about something like that. People can connect with it because people go through it, you know. I have a hard time sometimes when I'm like, man, I can't relate to, you know, some of these rap songs about doing drugs and, you know, all this
Party all night.
Crazy ass partying and doing this and doing that. It's, you know, there's a medium for everybody, you know. That's all there is really to say. So it doesn't surprise me that some of the, like, your music will hit people that way. Do you have, out of all your songs, what's your favorite song that's like released right now? That is, you would say is your favorite. Let's say favorite to play live.
Ooh, In It Together is right now because everybody sings along. But I also have a song called Better Without You. That was a single and then was also on my EP.
That's a contrast right there. So it's...
Oh, yeah.
What is it? So it's...
We're
In It Together and Better Without... Nice.
Oh, that's funny. Wow. Yeah, you're right.
You should play them back to back.
I usually do, actually.
Nice.
I usually play Better Without You first. And then I'm like, we're all in it. Whatever. But
I was just kidding, guys.
Yeah, joke's on you. But Better Without You is about when I moved back to Delaware, actually, after I finished teaching. And a lot of my old like relationship memories came back because I was in Delaware at the time. And I was like, I can't think about this every time. So I need to write a new narrative here. So my favorite part of singing that one is that in the second verse, the verse starts with the word Delaware. It's like, Delaware, all of this. And so it's just like a moment that everybody has learned to scream at a show. Whether or not I'm in Delaware, I could be in DC, I could be in Boston, and people are like, Delaware! And it's like...
Never even been.
It brings me so much joy because Delaware needs that kind of energy. You know what I mean? Like, we don't talk about Delaware enough. We Delawareans know. But I feel like I feel pride when I get to like bring a little bit of Delaware, you know, into different cities and have people like jump on board for just a lyric. It's cool.
So there's a comedian, his name's Theo Vaughn, and he talked about, he does a podcast, and he was talking about relish. And he was like, man, relish doesn't get enough love. He's like, he was saying something, but Delaware's like a relish state. You know, it's just like, it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
You know, you go to a party and there's like ketchup, mustard, mayo, fucking relish.
Yep.
And everyone's just kind of like, man, I guess relish had to show up. It's here, you know, but...
It's not hurting anybody.
It's not hurting anyone, but it's like, I mean, I'm definitely going to use ketchup or mustard, and relish is just kind of chilling there. I feel that's kind of like Delaware sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been coming to Delaware for basically my whole life. I live here now, and it's a great place. It's a cool place. There's a lot of you're on the beach, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's a blessing and a half. So I don't consider it relish, but...
Yeah, we who live here don't consider it relish, but I understand why other people do.
Yeah, so... And that's what they should put. Delaware, the first state, relish life. All day.
It's like bougie dog. It's like relish state.
Bougie dog, relish state.
Here it is.
So you said you're moving inland to where?
Nashville.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nashville's a crazy place.
I'm stoked.
That is a crazy place. In a good way.
Yeah. I've been going down intermittently the last year or so. Like every other month I'll go down for a trip or two, which has been great. So I've been writing and playing a little bit and doing writers rounds and building a little bit of a network. But I feel like if I'm going to do this thing, like I got to go and do it.
So what's your motive for playing? Why are you playing? Like when you sit back at the end of the day and you lay your head down at night and you're like, all right, I'm gonna catch some Z's. I feel fulfilled today. You know, why? What in your music makes you feel that? Like what pushes you to do it?
I feel like I'm most myself when I'm playing music. I think it's a really rare thing to find something that you love doing over and over and doesn't get old. And for me, that's music. Some people, that might be something in the athletic sect, or it could be, you know, sitting at a desk could really, you know, fill your cup. For me, it is getting on stage and bearing my soul and connecting with people who I would have never otherwise in my whole life met. And now we share something. That for me is so special, and I hope I can do it for the rest of my life.
I hope so too. I really do. Where's I know you were saying you have the shows on Thursday, the Rusty Rudder and Jimmy's. Do you have anything else lined up for the upcoming remainder of June?
For
And
June,
heading into July?
I mean, most of my summer is just down at the beach doing all these gigs down here. I am doing, like, my touring starts back up in October. That's most of my March and April postponed to September, October. So I've got a big show at World Cafe Live in Philly with my full band. We're headlining. That'll be an original show, which I'm so stoked about. That's on November 12th. So that's like my next big, like, putting all my marbles in one basket kind of thing. So yeah, November 12th, World Cafe Live. And then otherwise, I'll be traveling down to Florida and Nashville and Michigan for other shows.
As you get back into playing your originals to people, that you might cry.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, it's where I feel most myself. So it's not like I've been like empty during this quarantine, you know, but there is such
You're not relishing?
No, I'm not just relish during quarantine, but there is such a, like, almost like spiritual feeling I get when I'm on stage in a room full of people who are there for the same purpose. And once I feel that again, World Cafe will be one of those moments for sure. Because at my hometown, like, quote unquote, hometown fan base, I guess, is Philly.
Well, Wilmington's so close. For anyone that doesn't know, it's what, like 25, 30
exactly.
minutes?
So most of my draw is in the Philly area.
What date was that again?
November 12th.
November 12th.
Yeah, tickets are already on sale. World Cafe Live in Philadelphia.
Where can you find the tickets?
You can go to my website, mariellecraft.com, or World Cafe Live's website as well.
Are you on Instagram? Mm-hmm. What's the Instagram?
So everything, it's just Marielle Kraft, Marielle, Kraft, like a K, like the mac and cheese, Krifc.
I
Yeah,
haven't had
anywhere.
Kraft mac and cheese in a long time.
You should.
I don't know.
I know. You know, it could stay in the past. That's fine.
It's just. Do you ever watch SpongeBob?
Of course.
Remember when they're serving all the fancy food and the appetizer comes out?
Oh, of course.
I don't know. Sometimes Kraft's mac and cheese, like that orange powder, I'm like, I don't know.
I know.
I don't know about this.
Like, we know about real cheese now. When we were 7, maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to go back.
I just remember like dumping so much milk in there that was like soup, just like orange soup. It's like, it looks like orange Gatorade that just like had a bad day.
Ooh.
And just like shit noodles in there. Anyway, so November
12th.
November 12th. Nice. That's awesome. I'm sorry. I kind of lost everything I was
That's
thinking about
okay.
because I was just.
Yeah, so you can find me anywhere you find music, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Pandora, like literally anywhere. Just search Marielle Kraft. I've got a bunch of songs on there and videos on YouTube, and all my tour dates and stuff are on my website and Instagram and Facebook. Anywhere that you are, if you are there, I am also there, is pretty much what I say.
So I guess I'll ask you one last question. Out of all the places you've played, city-wise, you can't say your hometown. I don't know why.
Okay.
Just because I feel everyone's inclined
Bias.
to say a little bit of bias. Where do you get most excited to play? Ooh. And why?
Probably DC.
Really?
I love playing in DC. I don't know what is in the water, but every one of those shows is always such high energy, so fun. Everyone's so tuned in. Like, it is one of my favorite places to play. So we're headlining DC in September 19th?
Sometime in December.
No, September.
Okay.
Yeah, September 19th, I think it is. We're playing Songbird with the band, but I am so amped that our first show back is in DC.
You said Songbird?
Yeah.
I think my friend books at Songbird.
Oh, get out.
Shout out to Zishan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's such a cool spot.
Yeah, this kid actually, he'll jam with us. He plays drums. He kind of does my studio session stuff, and he's an amazing drummer. He's big into the scene. And,
Great.
Oh, yeah. So if I'm going to have to see that's the
DC.
key.
So I've played Songbird a bunch. That's like my home venue in DC.
But why DC, though?
I honestly don't know. Every time I'm there, it's just a phenomenal show. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep coming back because I love it here. And I mean, I taught right outside of DC. So I have, 9 months of my life was spent there. So I have a little bit of a community, but DC brings it. They really do.
Well, we were even saying earlier, there's a very underrated appreciation. I don't know if we could say that. It might seem like it, but the Northeast, Jersey, Philly, you were saying Boston.
New York.
What am I missing?
DC. Yeah.
Those are big scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, Jersey, sure. I mean, and the thing is, New Jersey had a big, I wouldn't say like emo, but I mean, My Chemical Romance came out of there. New York, you had the bands. I don't know if you were into this type of, because you're close to my age. Mm-hmm. We grew up with Blink was West Coast, but My Chemical Romance is Jersey. Taking Back Sunday was Long Island. Brand New was Long Island.
Good Charlotte was Waldorf, Maryland, right outside of D.C.
So was All Time Low.
Yep.
They're Baltimore.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, there's just there was a lot of stuff within that realm of that kind of emo punk rock. It was almost kind of, I wouldn't say pop at the time, but
pop punk, yeah.
If you think about it, like, this is kind of going a different direction, but look at let's use an example. Look at where Fall Out Boy is now, or where they were within the past couple of years, kind of like those poppier songs, like Centuries. Mm-hmm. And then if you go and listen to From Under the Cork Tree, that album is incredible. Like, but the thing is, that's biased on my part. That's just from my perspective, though. But just because I cater more towards that kind of raw rock sound. But what's interesting is that was pop at the time. Mm-hmm. Sugar We're Going Down Swinging.
Right.
That type of mix, that type of budget was being put towards that style of music. That's not too much the case, I feel. Maybe I'm wrong in that. So that's just kind of my viewpoint. But, you had Bruce. I mean, he's the Lord and Savior of New Jersey. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, he could run for president, and New Jersey would be completely put their vote to him. But, yeah, and it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So you feel within that realm of the Northeast coast that you have a good outlet there then, huh?
Totally. That's like my home stretch is Boston to DC, those cities in between. So I'm grateful.
You going to try to hit the West Coast soon? Yeah.
It was supposed to be on the books for this fall, but now that all my spring is postponed to the fall, that's going to be pushed to 2021. So we'll see. It'll happen when it's time.
Well, West Coast, they'll learn. They'll figure it out.
They'll learn.
You'll get out there. You'll show them what's good. But thank you for chilling and talking. Again, you could check out Marielle Kraft stuff on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, any place you get your media of the social life these days. And if you're ever in the Delaware area, in the Rehoboth, Dewey Beach area, check her out. And what is Sam's last name you play
Capolongo.
with?
Sam Capolongo.
Okay, I'm going to leave that one to you. Sam, What She Said. You can check them out on Thursday nights and Thursday afternoons. So, again, thank you for coming by.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
City to city, wonder if anyone sees me. Searching for yeses in a room full of maybes. Reaching out for your voice in the dark. Nobody told me it would be this hard. Second guessing if it's even in me, but I'm not alone. If we're in it, then we're in it together. If we're in it, then we're in it together. Doesn't matter where we are, for worse or for better. If we're in it, then we're in it together. Together.
Sleepless nights in my own home. I've been chasing this dream, song after song. And here I am, just alone in the dark. I never knew it would be this hard. Where do I go when there's nowhere left to run? And I remember,
if we're in it, then we're in it together. If we're in it, then we're in it together. Doesn't matter where we are, for worse or for better. If we're in it, then we're in it together. Together. When I'm lonely, when I'm tired, I wanna give in. What's it all worth?
so many questions, so many worries, so many letdowns.
But you remind me
You're not alone.
when I'm lonely, when I'm tired, I wanna give in. What's it all worth? So many questions, but you remind me I'm not alone.
If we're in it, then we're in it together.
If we're in it, then we're in it together.
Hey guys, this is Zach McCreary, producer of Catch My Riff podcast. Ended the podcast today with Marielle Kraft's original song, In It Together. If you liked her sound, be sure to check her out on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. And if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to follow the Instagram at Catch My Riff podcast for updates on upcoming guests and releases. And finally, be sure to check out DD Canfield on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Hope you guys enjoyed today. Peace.